YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to another YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have you all back here again, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a new ranking to end the year off. And today we are doing my ranking of all the movies that I went to go see in the movie theater this year. So let's go in and get started doing that, shall we? Now, technically, I kind of like all the movies that I've seen in theaters, and for me, Shazam 2 was a film that I did enjoy, but I can't necessarily say I like. Now, there are things in this movie that I do enjoy. Of course, I enjoy the action, there's some funny humor to it, I love the score at times, and that's pretty much the only thing. I think the big problem here is the story is so messy. I think that there are so many things that they did wrong with this movie. First off, having original villains in comic book films is not a good thing. They tried that with Guardians 2, and they didn't really work. Plus, you introduced this Rachel Zegler character, which I feel like this is one of her worst performances, which I'm glad she did better for Hunger Games, because now I'm a little bit excited for what she will do in Snow White. But then you take away all of the kids' powers, and then even when it gets to the monster stuff, you have them fighting using unicorns to fight the monsters, and it just like, it doesn't really look right. And then you have Shazam doing all of the big superhero battle stuff alone, and then he dies, and then you have the Wonder Woman cameo, which is just stupid. And then it doesn't even establish as to how the past Shazam is alive. Plus, all the post-credit scenes are just dumb, and they're just a waste of time. This movie, it's good, but I had a lot of issues with this movie, so it comes in last for my least favorite of the movies I saw in the theater. Now, technically, all the other movies up from this point in time I actually like. So, Fast X is a film that I actually do enjoy, as it's a pretty good, solid entry into the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, I would say it's better than F9 that came out 2 years ago, as it has a bit of a better story, that it's not doing more crazy things, it's not sending cars to space, but it finds a little bit of a better story to have with it. What I really enjoyed with this movie is it kind of felt like the Infinity War of the Fast and Furious franchise, where you're splitting up the characters. One is, some of the characters are in Europe, some characters are over here, and then you got Dom by himself and figuring out all this stuff. I thought Jason Momoa was great as the villain. He just had this energy that popped so much that I just loved, and I think that's part of, like, I was watching Aquaman this past week, and I was like, I forgot of how fun Jason Momoa is as an actor, and I'm like, I want to see him in more movies like this. Whether he's playing a villain, whether he's playing a hero, I want to see more stuff like that. And so yeah, he brings a fun role to our villain here. And of course, you know, the action is great, it's badass. And while I don't believe some of these characters are dead, it makes me excited to look forward to the next film. So it leaves me intrigued. It's not perfect, you know, there are some story issues. It probably does a little bit too much with certain stuff. It brings back the girl that was in Guardians 3 and Suicide Squad into this film, that plays the Russian cop's sister, which I thought was a clever twist. Which I guess that's what this whole thing is about family. So I enjoyed that aspect, but at the same time, still a good movie, but not amazing. Now, like Fast X, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is another fun, very fun movie to go to the theaters to watch. Personally, I went to the theaters to see this with my sister, along with a theater packed of kids. And I think what's kind of fun about this is seeing the kids' reactions to this. As soon as the credits start rolling, they were cheering and stuff, and I'm like, that's really cool. Besides that, I mean, getting to see the game that I played for a little bit, for a couple of years, and now to watch that put on screen, it's just really cool. I just love the way that Illumination animated and put the world of Mario onto the big screen. And the way they did that was just such a fantastic achievement from Illumination. To where, like, to me, it doesn't feel like an Illumination film. It feels like its own separate thing that this own studio decided to make. And now, obviously, it's not the best Illumination film. It's sort of lower tier, but it's still very good. I think all of the action sequences, whether it's the Rainbow Road fights, the Donkey Kong fights, the ones with Mario using the star, all of the fights in this movie are amazing. Jack Black as Bowser in the film was pretty good. Chris Pratt, I enjoyed him as Mario. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong was fun. And so yeah, it was just a fun movie. Not a great film, but a fun movie. Alright, so the next 7 are pretty much movies that I absolutely love. So, Little Mermaid, if you guys know, I give this an A-, so don't hate me when it's at number 7. If you loved it more than this, then hate me, I don't care. But yeah, Little Mermaid, I thought was an absolute amazing film. To me, it's actually one of my favorite remakes of Disney that they've made since Jungle Book and Maleficent, as they just found a way to pay homage to the original film, while at the same time doing story elements that fix the story to make you like the film more. Of course, the big thing you gotta talk about this film is, of course, Halle Bailey's performance as Ariel. Love her performance. And pretty much ever since then, I've been obsessed with Halle Bailey. And then you also get all the other actors with Daveed Diggs as Sebastian, the guy from Wonder playing Flounder. I like the guy that plays Eric, and they even found a way to actually like give him dimples. And Eric had dimples in the original film, so I'm like, that's kind of clever. And he also plays Eric really well. Melissa McCarthy as Ursula was great. And also, this is one of the first Disney remakes where I felt like all the songs were actually good. Like, all of them were good, even though they're not good as the original film, but they're all good, and I liked these versions. And like, they didn't sound bad to me at all. And so it's one of those Disney remakes where I felt like they did a lot of good things with it. They fixed some story elements. But it almost feels like there are certain things that I feel like shouldn't be here, and they just did that so they could change up the story just by a little bit. And then also, I think with some of the character designs was kind of bad. The underwater stuff I thought looked pretty cool, but some of the character designs of like Flounder, Scuttle, and like Sebastian were awful. And then also King Triton, Javier Bardem, I didn't think really did a good job as King Triton. He just played it too serious, where King Triton had this overall personality, and I feel like he just played him too seriously. I like the moments that happen with him towards the end, but in the first two halves, I didn't really like him, and you couldn't really sympathize with him like him in the original film. So, still a great film, but has some issues, but I still do love it. Okay, now you're probably going to hate me for what one is coming next. Yes, I do love Across the SpiderVerse. I've said it many times before on this channel. I do love Across the SpiderVerse. Obviously, the best thing about this movie is, of course, the animation, which I can't deny. I would go to this movie sometimes and be like, I would just go to this movie for the animation, because it's just that dang good looking. The way that everything is animated and put together, it's just so good looking. But even more than that, they even find a way to expand the story of the Spider-Verse, where we get to learn, where not only do we get to spend more time with Miles, but we also get to spend more time with Gwen. And if anything, she's kind of our main character of the film, as she's the character that gets a complete arc towards the end. And then you introduce all these different Spider people with Miguel O'Hara and Spider-Woman and all these other Spider people and all these references and all this amazing stuff. And it's funny, it's Spot, all of that great stuff. and explores the stuff of canon events and everything. All of this stuff is great, but I kind of feel like the movie is... First off, I feel like it's a movie trying to be this very sympathetic story. Not sympathetic. This very big, over epic story that's trying to feel human. And it kind of works. But at the same time, it also is kind of complicated. Because with the canon events, I don't really feel like it makes sense. Because what exactly do you need in order to be Spider-Man? You need to lose a loved one plus a police captain. But that means he's losing a loved one and a police captain at the same time. What? And it doesn't really make sense in light of Miguel's past. And so maybe it is the algorithm's fault. I'm so confused. And as you're introducing so many different characters with Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk and all these different characters, they're not in the movie that much. And especially with Spider-Punk, where I was like, I kind of like him, but I don't really understand him. Because it's like with Spider-Man India, he's the Spider-Man of India. So it makes sense. But with this one, it just kind of with Spider-Punk, it's he doesn't like fascists, he doesn't like patriotism, he doesn't care about authenticity or whatever. I don't understand all that. At the same time, I'm excited to see it Beyond the Spider-Verse. I'm excited to watch it, and I'm extremely excited to explore Earth 42 with a world that doesn't have a Spider-Man, and is overrun by the Sinister Six cartel. So, things that are exciting me from this movie, and I still think it's amazing, but there are some things that I do think drag it down a bit, and I think Into the Spider-Verse is way better. Now, who would have thought that Barbie would have been on my list to go see? Now, technically, I didn't see this movie opening weekend. I did see opening weekend, but I saw it on my little, cheat websites. But, a week later after it came out, my sister wanted to go see it in theaters, and so she invited me to go see it, and pretty much both times I saw it, I thought it was a great film, as they just found... First off, I do wish that this movie would have been aimed for families, both kids and adults, but it seems like it's more for adults, to be honest. But at the same time, I think they found such a great way of finding that adorableness, that very charismatic role of Barbie and Ken. But you created a story to where you have this story of Barbies, that they represent what women are, and all this stuff, and it creates that. And I was like, it gave me a different perspective on Barbie that I never actually thought about. And it gave us Barbie, so typical Barbie, an arc that she's not pretty. She doesn't have to be normal. She doesn't have to be what everybody says she is. She can be her own thing. And whether it is her being a Barbie or her being human. And I think that was a pretty good arc. And especially that the person that made her or whatever is thinking about death and all of that stuff. It's it's an interesting arc. And I know what you're thinking, how could you possibly put this above Across the Spider-Verse? And I think the reason for that is because it's still kind of confusing, but with the story of what Barbie told, it made a little bit more sense, and I was a little bit more satisfied. Plus, Barbie actually had a conclusion. Spider-Verse left on a cliffhanger. At the same time, the movie is also characterized with a bunch of great actors. Of course, Ryan Gosling is amazing as Ken. Of course, and also, to close out on this movie is Ken-up for the theaters. So this was actually one of the best theater experiences I've had in a while. As you know, for the first time this year, I finally watched the Mission Impossible franchise, and to me, this was just a blast going to be able to see this film because it's a big action movie. I want to go see this with my friend that actually never watched the Mission Impossible film, and so I kind of felt alone on this one. But it felt nice to go do something with a friend, but also just to see this awesome movie, to where they just this franchise up to like Mission Impossible 4 to on, they just found a way to make this franchise not really about the story and the characters, but really how do we do bigger with real action set pieces that can excite people. And so obviously with the characters and stuff, you know, Tom Cruise, obviously when it comes to side characters in this film, they do a great job, whether it's Tom Clementieff's character, Haley Atwell's character, which I've been watching a lot of her lately since What If's been streaming, as Captain Carter. But also, they kind of found an interesting way to do characters in a certain sense that make them memorable, even though the characters we've known for so long have been memorable. And that was like one of my big issues with Mission Impossible Fallout, is they introduced characters like Angela Bassett and Vanessa Kirby, but they didn't really do anything interesting with them. They were like there, and then they just kind of left. This one, they stick around and they stay, and I'm like, that's really cool stuff. But when it comes to those action scenes, man, I mean, if you think the leap off the cliff sequence, if you think the jump off the cliff is awesome, wait till you get to the train sequence, because the train sequence is incredible. Where it doesn't feel like it's a CGI thing, it doesn't feel like it's being point out of reality, it feels like something real that could actually happen in real life, where you have something dangling in the train, everything's falling down, and they're trying to get to this place and jumping from place to place. It's awesome! And that's like I never felt in an action movie before, and it felt like I was watching something realistic, and I love that. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, amazing, and I can't wait until we get the 8th film in this franchise, whenever that one's going to come out. So yeah, Creed 3 was actually the first film I went to go see in theaters, and I definitely absolutely love this film. Of course, I love the Rocky franchise, I love the Creed films, so naturally I had to go see this, and this was obviously a great film. First off, seeing Michael B. Jordan in the director's chair was of course amazing, and he handled a great movie with a really good story that, because Rocky's not involved, it was able to give Creed this very different story to where he feels, to me, this one feels like, this one to me feels like he's starting to be like Apollo Creed. He's starting to look like Apollo Creed. And I love that he's starting to get a little bit older and edgy. And even with the villain of Jonathan Majors, while there's a lot of stuff that happened with him in the past year, I thought he gave a great performance as Damian Anderson. And even when it comes to the boxing fights, they're some of the most unique things about the movie. I like certain parts about it, but it wasn't. I still thought it was amazing though, in the way they were shot, the way he handled certain sequences, and you could just tell that Michael B. Jordan has a unique taste for cinema. And even and what's so great about this experience is seeing in the theaters, it feels like you're actually like you're watching a fight at home. You're in the big stadium, and you just saw your favorite guy win, and you're cheering with the audience, and you're like, yeah, and the music plays, like, yeah, like, that's a great experience. I love that type of stuff. So this movie gave me exactly what I wanted, and I loved it. Honest, I didn't really have any plans to go see Blue Beetle in the theaters because I didn't really expect to see it. But my friends asked me last minute to go see if they want to go see it before school starts. So this is actually the last movie I saw in theaters before So I actually haven't been to the theater since August. So that's a shame. But with the film that I saw, I was absolutely surprised with this film. Because the trailer seemed to make it look like it was good. But I didn't want to love it too much. But honestly, I fell in love with this thing as soon as I saw it. And obviously, it does kind of copy the plot lines of both Iron Man and Ant-Man. But at the same time, it takes that stuff and makes it kind of unique. With a story that is interesting. But they also mix in this family genre that is different than the Shazam family. It's different in the superhero genre. And I like that they don't become the Shazam family again where they all get superpowers, but they get little pieces of tech that they use to help Jaime in the film. And so I thought that was just really, really great. And even when it comes to the action, it's awesome. And also it's very funny. And all the characters are likable, they're all memorable. George Lopez was also great in the film. Just so many great things about this movie. I just absolutely love. So I love Blue Beetle, and it's easily my favorite DCEU film, as the DCU has now ended. But usually coming in first place is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I never expected this movie to be loved for me as much. But I remember when we first heard about those first clips, I was so amazed, and then we got those trailers, and I was so amazed again, and then I finally saw the movie, and it just absolutely floored me. What this movie did is, one of the big things in the past couple MCU films that we've done, is they've given us these moments in the film, especially with No Way Home, Wakanda Forever. They've given these moments in the middle of the movie that impacts the movie for a big whole. You get No Way Home, it's the death of Aunt May. You get Wakanda Forever, it's the death of Queen Ramonda. And what's the big event that happens in this movie? It happens right at the beginning, with the attack on Nowhere, where Adam Warlock beats up the Guardians, and the result of it is the injury of Rocket Raccoon. So that sets the Guardians have to go across the galaxy to save Rocket. At the same time, as they're going to all these different locations, you get tons of great character moments and great character arcs, and find a story within them. And so you like, as this story of Guardians films has been about Peter Quill, you get more of the character moments from Nebula, from Drax, from Mantis, and even a little bit of 2014 Gamora. Even Groot gets some awesome moments. Even some of our side Guardians with Cosmo and Kraglin. And also you get, of course, the great backstory with Rocket. And they found a way to do more with these characters, but at the same time close the story out in such an amazing way. And you can just imagine as to what their characters are going to be doing. And it makes me feel like we could get so much more with these characters, that I want to see more. That is, like, it's sad that they're not going to be together anymore, but I want to see more. So yeah, I loved what this film did. At the same time, it also delivered a great soundtrack. The CGI is amazing, and also the action is also amazing. Possibly the best of the MCU from the Guardians films. But yeah, that's my ranking of all the movies I saw in theaters this year. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff in the about section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.